Author is funded by the Pacific Northwest Writers Association, supporting writers from pen to publication since 1955. To learn more about the PNWA and their yearly conference, please go to pnwa.org. Hi, this is Bill Kenower of Author Magazine, and we're here at the University Bookstore in Seattle, Washington with Anna Stothard, author of The Pink Hotel. Anna, welcome to Author.
Thank you. It's really nice to be here.
When did you first become aware that story was important to you, that you cared about it?
The first time I sat down and decided to write a long story was when I was about 14. Yeah. And it was called Fairies.
Okay.
And it was about two psychic circus twins. And it was followed quite swiftly by another novella called Fever Eyes, which was about a suicidal mermaid. And they were both, actually my dad still has them, humiliatingly. And they're both quite long. I mean, I was a very antisocial teenager.
Is that right?
And they're really quite, they're 20,000 words each.
Wow. And you were 14, 15?
Yeah, or even, like 13. Very antisocial, didn't have many friends. But these very freaky novellas. The first thing I remember really sitting down and it's the first time I remember constructing a story.
Yeah.
I think I was always very interested.
But you read, didn't you?
I read a lot.
Yeah.
And was very interested in character, very interested in describing things. I was always interested in words.
When you get into that place of where you're having to write a scene and bring it sort of visually and sensorily to life, what do you do within yourself? What do you do within, what do you see, feel, where do you go within yourself during that time of trying to bring it forward viscerally?
Well, it's actually a terribly difficult question.
I know, it's abstract, isn't it?
Well, not just because it's abstract, but because I find that I often, when I look back at passages that I think have worked really well, or a lot of like my first draft of a novel, I'll often be completely baffled by sort of when or how I wrote it. Oh. I won't have any memory of having sat down to write that passage. I'll remember the editing, and that's sort of, that's like a yeah. conscious constructing, but the actual sort of inspiration moment, I often don't have any memory of it. I mean, the one sort of thing that I would do is sit down and describe something for far longer than would be you would think humanly possible. So I would
You mean in terms of the number of words, or just how long you will spend allowing yourself?
I would sit and if you were in a cafe opposite me, and I would sit and I would write down absolutely everything I could possibly describe about you.
Okay.
Down to the tiniest, tiniest, tiniest detail. Which in the end gets you something slightly more unique than that first
yes.
first description that you come up with is, often quite superficial.
And you enjoy that?
I do enjoy that.
Why? Let's say teach someone who's never done that. I have, but supposing I haven't. Why is that pleasurable?
Well, it's translating. It's a form of sketching, I suppose. You're sketching a person and you're making them your own.
Yeah.
You're not just trying to take what they look like, but trying to capture some essence of them.
I'm going to guess you do not outline.
I do not outline.
Okay.
Actually, that's not true. I do outline, and then I totally ignore it.
Oh, do you write it down?
Yeah, I do.
Oh, you do?
I do, actually. Yeah, it's almost like I'm sort of creating rules so that I can
break them.
Joyfully break them.
Wow. And you don't worry about it. If this character goes left when you said right, you don't worry about it at all.
I knew what the twist was going to be at the end of The Pink Hotel. So in that sense, I had that focus point at the end. I didn't know exactly or how I'd outlined her getting there.
Yeah.
It turned out to be quite different. Because I personally can't, as you're writing, I don't understand how this can't be the case with everyone, but as you're writing, the character deepens and you get character traits that you hadn't thought of, or you're walking down the street and you see a situation and it becomes a part of you, and it then becomes a part of the book.
So for someone who's never tried to write a story like that, can you describe what that means when you say your characters tell you? How does that happen? Because there's no one sitting there with you, just you. Or
well,
is
I don't know if, well, I would say that I expect with most people, I mean, do you surprise yourself? Do you sometimes do things that you go out for an evening and it ends up in some way that you completely didn't expect? Do you go and talk to a girl that you didn't think you would? Your life does takes mysterious twists and turns. And if all your characters are obviously coming from facets of your mind, and I wouldn't say alter egos, but they're all coming out of you. So there's no reason to think that these creatures that are almost like ventriloquist dummies sitting on your knee, and they share lots of your observations and fantasies and obsessions, and they're not you, obviously. You can have a guy, a girl, an ancient woman, an alien, but they all come out of something that's very much part of you. So if you ever surprise yourself, then it's perfectly reasonable that your characters are going to do unexpected backflips.
So when you were a young girl, you were somewhat antisocial. You described yourself that way. And so here you are tonight. You're going to be reading to a group of strangers. And you've written this book, which is not a memoir, but always these books are very personal to us, very emotional experiences, very private in the creation. So what has happened to that antisocial girl? How does she deal with now being an author? Because that's not an antisocial experience.
No, which is crazy, isn't it?
It is. So what does she do? How is she handling it?
She's learning.
Yeah?
It is kind of amazing that writers I'm sure there are lots of very sociable writers, but the desire to spend a year, 2 years sitting on your own in a room, hearing voices, you're probably not, lots of people are, I can't speak for all writers, but it's not, it doesn't shout gregarious to you.
No.
Fiction is often speaks in, it's not reality, but it speaks to a different sort of reality, a different sort of truth, and it's very close to the bone. And then suddenly you're,
Because to write well in the way that you do, the approach you take, requires a vulnerability. You have to allow yourself to be vulnerable, don't you? You can't get to where you want to go by keeping the defenses up.
Yeah. I think Emerson said that, that fiction gets to truth that often reality obscures.
Yeah.
And sometimes, this obviously, she's not me, and none of the facts in the novel are true, but it's still a very intimate thing to show to the world.
Yeah.
Let alone stand up and read to the world.
All right, so Anna, what I'd like you to do for my last question here is finish this sentence for me, okay? If writing has taught me anything at all, it's taught me what?
If writing has taught me anything at all, it has taught me that nothing is a mistake in life and absolutely everything is really good copy.